Every meal you have ever eaten carries a secret, not because of what is in it, but because someone, thousands of years ago, had to decide whether it was food at all. There were no labels, no guidebook, no warning printed anywhere, no doctors, no chemistry, no one standing nearby to say, "Do not eat that." A single wrong choice could mean another sunrise, or it could mean becoming the last person in your family to make one. And yet humans spread into deserts, crossed frozen tundras, pushed into dense rainforests, and reached islands full of plants and animals they had never seen before. They did not all discover the same foods, but every single group faced the exact same question. How do you know what is safe to eat when you have never seen it before? The answer was not sharper senses. It was not luck. And it was certainly not one brilliant discovery. It was a chain of them. One revealed that your own body can lie to you. Another turned knowledge into humanity's greatest survival tool. A third, according to Richard Wrangham, may have reshaped not just what humans ate, but how humans think. And the last one worked in complete silence, centuries before anyone knew bacteria or yeast even existed. It starts with a belief that still fools people today, that your tongue can tell the difference between food and poison. It seems like something evolution should have solved cleanly. Eat something dangerous, taste the danger, and walk away. Except that is not how it works. The one real clue humans have is bitterness. Many toxic plants contain bitter compounds, and that sensitivity likely saved a lot of early meals from going badly. But it is a warning, not a verdict. Some of the most poisonous plants on Earth barely announce themselves. Others that have fed people for thousands of years are almost unbearable straight from the source. Take the acorn. For generations, it was a serious food source across entire regions, yet raw off the tree it is loaded with bitter tannins that make it unpleasant and, in enough quantity, harmful. Someone discovered that soaking those acorns in water washes the tannins away completely. Nothing about the tree changed. The knowledge did. Cassava tells a similar story. Today it feeds hundreds of millions of people. Some varieties still contain compounds that release cyanide if they are not prepared correctly first. The plant is not trying to feed you, it is trying to protect itself. B. Wilson points out that techniques we now treat as ordinary, soaking, boiling, grinding, roasting, rarely began as recipes. They began as solutions someone stumbled onto, remembered, and taught to somebody else until the method survived long after the original reason behind it had been forgotten. So if your senses could never fully protect you, what could? Keep that question in mind, because the answer changes everything else in this video. Picture following your family into the forest for the very first time. You do not know which berries are edible, which mushrooms will hurt you, or which roots need hours of preparation before they are even close to a meal. Nobody hands you a list, you simply watch. You notice which plants the adults reach for without hesitation, which ones they walk straight past, and which ones they refuse to touch even when food is scarce. Long before you understand why, you already know what. That is how most food knowledge actually survived, not because every generation started from nothing, but because every generation inherited what the last one had already paid for. Yuval Noah Harari argues that one of humanity's biggest advantages was never sharper eyesight or a stronger sense of smell. It was the ability to preserve knowledge and hand it forward so information could outlive the person who first discovered it. Early humans studied the world around them too. Birds returned to the same fruit trees every season. Deer grazed one patch of land while avoiding another entirely. But animals were a clue, never a guarantee. Koalas live almost entirely on eucalyptus leaves that would make a human violently sick. So people compared observation after observation instead of trusting a single one, and over generations those patterns hardened into tradition. Jared Diamond has shown that every environment forced people toward different answers to the same problem. The forests of Europe rewarded different knowledge than the rainforests of South America. Different landscapes, different foods, the same underlying question everywhere. Michael Twitty reminds us that food traditions preserve more than ingredients. They preserve experience. A family might soak a certain seed or roast a root for hours or avoid a specific berry entirely without anyone remembering the original reason. The lesson survived. The person who paid for it did not have to survive with it. By now, a pattern is forming. The greatest discoveries were rarely new foods. They were new ways of understanding the ones people already had, and no single discovery changed that relationship more than fire. For thousands of years, people learned which foods to avoid. Then they discovered something even more powerful. They could change the food itself, Richard Wrangham argues that cooking was one of the defining turns in human evolution, not simply because it made things taste better, but because heat unlocked more usable energy and made far more food digestible. Picture a wild tuber, dry, tough, barely worth the effort to chew. Now place that same tuber beside glowing embers. Minutes later, it softens, sweetens, and becomes something your body barely has to fight for. The plant has not changed, the amount of energy your body can pull from it has. Wrangham's argument goes further. As human ancestors evolved, teeth grew smaller, jaws grew lighter, and digestive systems grew shorter, while brains grew dramatically larger. His case is that cooking shifted the body's energy budget, and some of what digestion no longer needed went somewhere else entirely. The decision to hold food over a flame may have quietly helped shape the mind making that decision. Before this goes any further, take a second and actually guess. What do you think early humans tested first once they had fire under control? Drop your answer before the next part plays. I want to see how many people land close because the real answer catches almost everyone off guard. Fire taught humans how to transform food in minutes. The next discovery taught them something far harder to learn. Sometimes the smartest thing you could do was nothing at all. Leave the food alone. Wait, watch what happens. Long before anyone knew bacteria or yeast existed, unconnected communities around the world kept arriving at the same idea. Milk became yogurt, cabbage became something closer to sauerkraut. Grain became something you could drink instead of chew. None of these groups shared a laboratory. Many never even knew the others existed, yet they landed on strikingly similar answers, not because they understood the science, but because they trusted the results. B. Wilson's point holds here too. Some of humanity's greatest discoveries were never new ingredients. They were new techniques, and fermentation may be the boldest one of all, since it did not just preserve food, it occasionally made dangerous food safer and difficult food easier for the body to use. A recipe, seen this way, is not really a set of instructions. It is a message from someone who already survived testing it, carried forward by people who kept a method alive long after they forgot why it mattered in the first place. Every cuisine on Earth today is a living archive built the same way. Dan Barber has spent time arguing that many traditional food practices were never accidents or superstition. They were careful observations, repeated until they hardened into culture. Most of the failures disappeared quietly with the people who made them. The successes became tradition, and tradition eventually became dinner. So the next time you sit down to eat, you are not just looking at a meal. You are looking at thousands of years of watching, testing, failing, and remembering quietly passed from one generation into the next. Every single bite is proof that someone learned something, and someone else made sure it was never forgotten. If this is the kind of question that stays with you long after a video ends, there is more of exactly this waiting for you here.